Hey, what's up, you guys? WWE fan 0599 here again, and today we're going to be doing my top 10 worst movies of 2016. Yesterday we talked about the best in films of this year. Now let's talk about the absolute abominations that came out this year. And boy, there were some abominations that came out this year. So yeah, let's not waste any more time and let's just get right into the list, because man, oh man, we might be here for a while. So here we go, my top 10 worst movies of 2016. Before we get into the actual list, I do have a few dishonorable mentions. Here we go: The Huntsman, Winter's War, The Do-Over, The Fifth Wave, Allegiant, The Purge, Election Year, Ghostbusters, Owls Through the Looking Glass, Cell, Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, Nerve, Zoolander 2, and although this movie is so bad it's hilarious, it's still a terrible movie, Gods of Egypt. So those are my dishonorable mentions for my worst list for 2016. So here we go, let's get into the list with my number 10. And my number 10 is a movie that I went into it a little bit of expectation because of who was directing it, but man, this movie was just like the first film. And my number 10 is Blair Witch. Adam Wingard, you are so much better than this. Why? Why? Now, I'm not even a fan of the original Blair Witch, the one that came out in 1999. I'm not even a fan of that movie. I think that movie's absolute horse manure. It's awful, seriously. But this movie had somewhat of expectations going into it because, like I said, Adam Wingard was directing it. So I was like, okay, maybe this might be actually good. No, not in the slightest. All this movie is just boring, uninteresting characters. Seriously, these characters were just so uninteresting. And the movie is so boring. Nothing happens. For the majority of this movie, nothing happens. Nothing happens until the final act of this movie. Seriously, all they do is just walk around the woods, just like the first movie. All they do is walk around the woods and just like, oh, something moved. Hey guys, something moved. And all the scares are just like lame jump scares. Like a friend will pop up and go, hey man, like seriously, that's all those scares are. And just, they don't work. And plus, the directing is horrible with this movie. Adam Wingard, I seriously don't know what you were doing. The directing was horrible with this film. And then the ending, the ending left more questions than answers. Seriously. I was just going, what? Towards that ending. Blair Witch is a horrible movie. And deserves to be on my worst list. And it comes in at number 10. Number 9. Oh boy. My number 9 is The Neon Demon. Seriously. I don't get what people see in Nicolas Winding Refn. I really don't. You know, I thought Bronson was great. I thought Drive was just good. I mean, it's not great. It's nothing fantastic, but it was good. Only God Forgives. Oh my goodness. But then this movie. Oh man, this movie just made reach my breaking point with this guy. I absolutely hated it. Obviously, it's on my worst list, so obviously I hated it. But man, The Neon Demon. What a pile of garbage. Seriously. The acting in this movie, everyone just felt like a gigantic robot. Like, everybody was just talking like this throughout the entirety of the movie. Like, that's all they did. And seriously, and the movie makes no complete sense whatsoever. Seriously, this movie makes no sense. There's a scene where, I think a Jaguar, that is in this woman's hotel room. Never gets explained afterwards. What? It never gets explained. And plus, oh yeah, Nicolas Winding Refn's like, oh, I gotta add in violence. We gotta add in shock value, people. Shock value. And it doesn't work. It fills nothing to the story. Seriously, it's just shock value for the sake of shock value. And Nicolas Winding Refn's directing is horrible with this movie. It's so pretentious and so just like trying to be so artsy and so, you know, like, so just artsy and all that. Really, that's the best way I could put it. He just tries to be so artsy, but yeah, it comes off so pretentious in my eyes. And don't go, oh, Nicholas Winding Refn's one of the best directors working today. One of the best working directors by Ankin Butt, okay? Seriously. Man, oh my goodness. But yeah, The Neon Demon is a horrible movie. It seriously is. It's just downright awful. So it comes in at my number 9. Number 8, oh boy, we're getting to the 8 movies that I gave an F to. These were the big old piles of garbage that came out. So here we go. And the first one is a sequel to a movie that wasn't even good in the first place. And that movie is Ride Along 2. Man, Ride Along, the first Ride Along wasn't even good. But I'll at least give the first Ride Along this. At least that one had somewhat funny moments at times. And had some pretty decent action, to be honest. None of that is in this movie. This just adds to the long laundry list of comedy sequels that were absolutely trash. I mean, seriously. And just everybody was awful in this movie. Ice Cube, what are you doing, Ice Cube? You're so better than this. You really are. You're way, way better than this. And what are you doing? Kevin Hart, even Kevin Hart's way better than this. Seriously, I know a lot of people don't really like what he's doing, but I've liked him in most of his movies, to be honest. It's just, in these movies, he just plays like, all he does is scream and yell throughout the entirety of the film. That's all he does. Seriously. And the action is so sloppy with this movie. It's like, what? It's so sloppy, especially this one car chase sequence. I was just like, you have got to be kidding me. The comedy does not work at all in this movie. The comedy is just terrible. Like, there was not a single time I did laugh in this film. Ride Along 2 is just another terrible example of why comedy sequels do not work at all. So, coming in at number 7. Oh man, this was a great year for animated films. It really was. With the exception of these 2 movies, and this is one of them. Here we go. That is Norman the Dwarf. Norman the Dwarf. Oh man. You know, originally this was supposed to be a straight-to-DVD animated film. It should have stayed that way. Why was this released in theaters? Why? Why? Why was this released in theaters? Seriously, why was this movie released in theaters? This movie is awful. From the terrible, like, voice acting. Seriously, everyone's terrible. From Rob Schneider to Heather Graham. They have the character list on the poster. Rob Schneider, Heather Graham, Ken Jeong, and Bill Nye. Like, what were these guys thinking? Like, they were like, oh, we just need a paycheck, so, well, Rob Schneider does anything for a paycheck. Like, literally, he'll do anything. And it's just awful, and the animation is terrible with this movie. Like I said, this was supposed to be a straight-to-DVD animated film. And it definitely tells, it shows, it really does show, man, the animation is awful with this movie. Seriously. PlayStation 1 games have better, like, looking graphics or visuals than this. Seriously. Yeah, Norman the Dwarf is just nothing but just a stupid, like, trying to be like a little silly little kids movie, and it just comes off as that silly. And it's awful. So yeah, that's what comes at number 7, Norm of the North. Number 6. Man. Another comedy. The Boss. Ben Falcone, why? Why? He's making another movie in 2018. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Make me suffer even more. The Boss. Seriously, Melissa McCarthy, what are you doing with your career? It seems like you're just trying to do the same old shtick, and it just doesn't work. It seems like when you're with Paul Feig, it works the most, and that's where you really shine. But however, in this movie, like movies like Tammy, or like what was that other film? I forgot the name of it, but it was more or less Tammy. And now this. Seriously, why? She was awful in this. So was everyone else. Kristen Bell, Peter Dinklage, like everyone was terrible in this movie. These kids, these kids as well were terrible. Oh man. And not to mention, this movie has one of the most unlikable protagonists you're probably going to see all year in Melissa McCarthy's character. And the comedy doesn't work. It's lazy, it's generic, it's just like, whatever, honestly. I did not laugh a single time in this movie. Not to mention, this movie has one of the stupidest finales I've seen to a film all year. It involves a sword fight. Oh my goodness. Oh man, not to mention that this movie was boring as well. Like I said in my review, if Ben Falcone thought this was good writing, he seriously needs a reality check, because my goodness, the writing is awful with this movie as well. So yeah, The Boss is just a terrible, terrible comedy. Please, if you haven't seen it, just do exactly that. Do not see it. It's terrible. So let's just jump straight into my number 5. Oh, the top 5. Oh, wonderful. And yeah, this movie's from a director I cannot stand with, like literally, I hate with every fiber in my being. And that is 31. Oh, it's Rob Zombie again, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Zombie, man that puts no effort into his movies. Seriously, this guy puts no effort whatsoever into any of his films. Really, like, there's never a time where I feel like this guy is trying with his movies. Like, seriously, and some people are like, oh, he's a good director. How? The dude puts no effort into his movies whatsoever. And this is another example of that. Because all he does is just lazy characters, just violence for the sake of violence. All it is there for is just to, oh, look, it's all violent and all gruesome, right? It serves nothing. Literally, it serves nothing to the story. It's just violence for the sake of violence. Seriously, it's terrible. And oh, did I mention lazy characters? Yeah, lazy characters. And the fact that he has to cast his wife in every single movie he directs. She's a terrible actress. Stop. 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 Seriously, she's an awful actress. Quit casting her in your movies. And man, just Rob Zombie just doesn't know how to direct a movie. And this is all his directing. It's all it is. It's shaky cam galore. That's all the directing is with this movie. You cannot even see what's going on at times. The writing is awful. Oh my goodness, the writing is terrible with this movie. And probably the worst thing about this movie is the villain. The villain is called Doomhead. This guy's dialogue and the way this guy presents himself. Oh my goodness. Like I said, this is all he does. He'll talk like this, like a talk very soft. And then he'll raise his voice like this. That's all. That's what he does. And it's terrible the way it comes off on screen. Yeah, seriously, 31 is just another bad example of why Rob Zombie is one of the worst directors of all time. Not just working today, but of all time. So, 31 comes in at number 5. Number 4. The other anime film that I talked about. Remember when I said there were 2 anime films that weren't that good this year? Yeah, this is the other one. Ice Age, Collision Course. Whew, okay. Seriously, why are they still making these movies? Okay, listen, I love the first movie. I actually really like, I really love the first movie. It's a great animated film. The second one, it's fine. It's okay. The third movie I actually had kind of fun time with. It was kind of fun. The fourth movie, however, what? And then this one. What? Like, seriously, this is awful. This was terrible. Now, I don't even think 4-year-olds would like this movie. Seriously. Like, this movie is nothing but, like, lazy voice acting, lazy animation, lazy comedy. Like, this movie is just lazy. It's like they're not even trying at this point. It's like, oh, well, no, these movies will make tons of money, so we'll just put them out anyways. Seriously. Oh, and the reason. Oh, my goodness. And then towards the end, like, I'm not going to spoil it, but it has something to do with Mars. Oh, my goodness. I was just baffled. I was just like, oh, my goodness. This movie has gotten to this point, haven't it? They just, like, way jumped the shark with this series. Like, way jumped it. Like, it's in space at this point. And, my goodness, like I said, the animation should have been just straight to DVD. Like, seriously, it is awful looking. At least with the fourth movie, my only positive I can give the fourth movie is at least the animation looks somewhat decent. It actually looked pretty good. However, in this movie, no, not at all. This animation looked terrible. Oh, man, Ice Age Collision Course is an absolute awful travesty of a movie. So that's why it comes in at number 4. Number 3. 50 Shades of Black. These parody movies need to die. Like, seriously, they're not good. They put no effort into these parody movies. Like, seriously, what happened to the good old days with parody movies like Airplane? Heck, even the first Scary Movie. What happened to those parody movies? Hot Shots. What happened to those genius parody movies? Now all it is just oh, this movie's really popular now. Let's make a parody movie out of it. That's exactly what goes through Marlon Wayans' brain. It's like, oh, that movie's popular now. Oh, let's make a parody out of it. And have some lazy jokes and some really awful writing and some really terrible characters. Not to mention, like I said, I'm not usually like this all the time, but my goodness, this movie is beyond racist. Like, seriously, this movie is beyond racist. I was just like, oh my goodness, how does anybody find this funny? Like, it wasn't. It was terrible comedy. Seriously, if you want to look at a good parody movie that came out this year, look at Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping. That was a good parody movie. This is a terrible example. Stop with these lazy parody movies. Marlon Wayans, they're not funny, okay? Seriously, they're awful. Stop it. Stop it. They're terrible. The comedy was awful with this film. The acting is atrocious. The writing was terrible. And not to mention, this movie was boring. Oh man, 50 Shades of Black, what an awful travesty. So, it comes in at number 3. Oh man, the top 2 movies. Oh, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what the top 2 movies are because these are the only 2 movies I did a huge rant on. So, let's just get into it because you already know what the number 2 is. So here it is. Independence Day Resurgence. Oh my goodness. This movie, okay, going into this movie, I didn't think it was going to be good. I was like, it doesn't really look good. But I went in with an open mind. I was like, you know what, I could like it. It was beyond worse than I thought it was going to be. Beyond! It set my expectations for how worse it was going to be. Like, it passed my expectations. This is one of the worst sequels I've ever seen. Not only is this the worst sequel of this year, but it's one of the worst sequels I've ever seen, ever, honestly. This movie is so stupid, so idiotic, and just a mess. Like, this movie's a gigantic mess. When it comes to its action scenes, it's awful. Like, seriously, it's nothing more than a clustered mess. Not to mention the CGI. Whoa, my, the CGI. Like I said, if you thought movies like Gods of Egypt, Fantastic Four, The Fifth Wave, you thought all those movies had bad visual effects, you've seen nothing. You have seen nothing. This just tops the cake right here. Independence Day Resurgence. It's nothing more than a CGI mess, this movie. Oh, especially when you get to the mother alien. Wow. Seriously. It felt like they were on the budget of a ham sandwich with this movie. Seriously. And the acting as well. Jeff Goldblum just phones it in. Bill Pullman just phones it in. Liam Hemsworth does his stupid face. Just does that stupid face through the entire film. Jesse T. Usher, I believe that's the dude's name. Horrible, a pathetic replacement for Will Smith. And just, everybody in this movie was awful. Like, did I mention the action scenes were a big, gigantic mess? Oh, I did? I'll mention them again because they're a big, gigantic mess. The writing is atrocious with this movie as well. I felt nothing between any of the characters. Like when Jeff Goldblum and Liam Hemsworth had to go places together, I felt nothing. I felt no chemistry whatsoever with any of these characters. Independence Day Resurgence is a terrible movie, but however, it does not beat the number 1. The number 1 worst movie of 2016. The movie that broke me the most. And it's broken many other people as well. You know what it is. Dirty Grandpa. Really? Really? Really, Lionsgate? This is the movie you're gonna put out? This is the movie you decide you're gonna put out? Really? Really? This movie is an absolute... This is an absolute nuclear explosion to movies. This movie is... This is beyond a travesty, this movie. Dirty Grandpa is beyond a travesty. This is probably a cinematic abortion. Seriously, this movie is awful. This is a terrible movie. It's beyond awful. Seriously, I hate this movie with a burning passion. It is an awful comedy. If there are things in this movie that happen that I'm just like, how did this bypass the studio? Seriously. Oh my goodness. The Fuzzy Bee scene is arguably one of the worst scenes I've ever seen in my life. Not just in a comedy, but in movies in general. The comedy does not work at all in this movie. The comedy is terrible. Seriously, nothing was funny. How did anybody find this movie funny? This movie is seriously juvenile, and actually, that's not a word I use very often, actually. But this movie is beyond juvenile. Seriously, it felt like a 12-year-old written this. Like, seriously, that's what it felt like. Actually, you know what? A 12-year-old's a lot smarter than what this movie had to offer. Seriously, the acting is atrocious in this movie. Robert De Niro gives the worst performance of his career. Zac Efron, what were you doing? Zoe Dutch, what were you doing? Audrey Plaza, oh my goodness, she was the worst. Then you have no, actually, wait a minute, I take that back. Julianne Hough, she was awful too. The worst person in this movie, the guy who plays the drug dealer. I think I have not despised a character so much, probably in a long time, than the drug dealer. My goodness. And then, it's awful, this movie. I've already went into much detail of why I think this movie is awful in my review, but, oh my goodness, seriously, this movie is an abomination against cinema. This is a travesty. I have no words. Really, I don't have any words. I think I've said what I need to say. The comedy's awful with this movie. The acting is atrocious. The writing, oh my goodness, the writing. Oh boy. The directing is awful. This movie would never end. Oh my goodness. This was the movie that tortured me the most. Dirty Grandpa. Thanks, Dirty Grandpa, for torturing the living life out of me. So that was it. That was my top 10 worst movies of 2016. Hope you all enjoyed my misery. Misery. So yeah, what are your top 10 worst movies of 2016? Leave them in the comment section below. I'm WWE Fan 0599, and we'll see you all later. Peace.